Hey everybody, it's Lacey, and I am jumping on here today to talk a little bit about the Data Master machine. So if you're in South Carolina, if you've ever been charged with DUI, you know that the police ask you for a breath sample, and you give that sample in what's called the Data Master machine. It's a computer, and it has a tube. You blow into the tube, and it pops out a number. So I want to talk about kind of a little bit of details about this machine, why attorneys recommend not giving a sample, what are some defenses that you could use, and just kind of teach you a little bit about the Data Master. So the Data Master, it runs on software from the 1990s. It's a Windows operating system, which has always just blown my mind that we are in 2025 and using a Windows software program to try to convict people of a crime with software from the 1990s. It's like Windows 95 or something like that. So that is something that's always kind of made me raise an eyebrow when I get these numbers. I don't always trust it, and that is one of the things that bothers me, like I said. And a good example is what happened to me this week. So I had a phone update. It was like last week or something, and I have an Apple. It's one of the newer Apples. I think it's like 15 or something. But I went to update my phone. It had a software update, so I updated it. Well, once I updated my phone, it said I needed to update my watch. I didn't have time to update my watch, so I haven't. Well, my watch quit working. So, you know, when my phone goes, if I can't find it, I'll ping it from my watch. It wasn't pinging. If I got a text message or a phone call, it wasn't coming through on my watch. So I was missing a lot of calls. And then finally, it's working again because I did the software update on my watch. But only because I did the software update on my watch did it update my phone. So these things are normal, right? They happen to us on our computers, on our phones. Sometimes our cars need updates and refreshers, but yet we're so dependent and saying, oh my gosh, this is the best machine ever for DUI convictions, and this number is just solid. There's nothing wrong with it. This computer spits out. I want you all to know that this is spitting out a number using software from 1995. And that's why it's so important to know it is just one piece of evidence in a case. And the weight of that evidence depends on the rest of the evidence, right? And it also depends on, well, did anything mess up? Because our phones mess up, my watch messed up, my car messed up. It had to get a sensor replaced this week. So, you know, it's important to know what this computer is. And that is one thing that I think is important to know about the Data Master. Another thing that is important to note about the Data Master is it's programmed, right? Our phones are programmed. Our watches are programmed. How many times have you had like, you hit a button and like AI pops up, or Siri, it was like, oh, what were you saying? And it just popped up and asked you a little question. It's because it's programmed to do that. And same thing, when we search things on on Google, and then you log in on Facebook, and all of a sudden you got ads for what you were just searching. It's because it's programmed to do that, right? So there are certain biases that the Data Master is programmed to go towards the state. And you can look at those biases and see if it affected the sample by looking at the reports on the computer. So for example, here in South Carolina, whenever we have a DUI case, we typically get the breath ticket. You can go online and see if it was calibrated. There's reports on the calibration, if the solutions were at the right temperature. There's all that information you can get. But there's two pieces of evidence that they do not put online for the public, and they do not turn over in discovery unless you specifically request that. That is the breath graph. Behind that number, behind every number, there is a graph that makes it. So depending on how much you blow into the machine and what they are saying that the blood alcohol content in your system is, those numbers are coming together to make a graph and get to that number that it spits out, right? They don't turn that graph over. They don't turn the data points that make that graph over. Those are extra things that we look into and that we pull to see, is this an accurate number? So it's very important just to know about the Data Master machine, how it works, the reports that we use to see if this number is reliable, if there's a defense to this number. So it's important to have somebody that is knowledgeable in DUIs as your attorney when they go to look at these things. And it's also why, like we said, we recommend not giving a sample, because what I will say is there is so much pressure that a lot of prosecutors put on that number, and it is really hard to convince them. If we truly believe that number is not an accurate sample and our client's not guilty of either DUI at all, or at least at not that high of a sample, it's really hard to convince them otherwise, because I think there is just, and it's not just on them. We, in South Carolina as well, we hear about the data master machine. I think even if any of us sat in a jury and heard that number, unless you're not very knowledgeable on it, you're gonna put a lot of faith in it. So I think it's important to know that machine and that system, and that's why defense attorneys who do know about this machine and have seen those errors and problems with it advise you not to give a sample, because it can be really hard to fight that number with prosecutors, whereas if you don't have that piece of evidence, it's usually beneficial in a lot of cases. So every case is different. We can't ethically promise you anything, of course, but that's just a little bit more about the data master machine that I think is important to note. If you have any questions, or if you've been charged with DUI and you want to give us a call, please reach out to our office. The Columbia office is 803-724-8916, and for Myrtle Beach, 843-444-6122.